A 5-man crew of robbers stormed into Olivia's Fine Jewelry in Madera, California at around 5:30 p.m. on November the 13th of 2025. The robbers were all wearing dark clothing, masks, and had their hoodies pulled up. At least 2 of them carried hammers. They proceeded to smash through display cases and began packing jewelry pieces into their bags. One of the suspects jumped over the counter, whereupon a worker tackled him from behind, pushed him against a display case and punched him. The robber launched himself back over the counter, but the worker shoved him from behind and he dropped to the floor with his pants falling down. He quickly rose to his feet and fled towards the door. Moments later, the store owner brandished a pistol and opened fire on the group. They scrambled out the front door, falling over each other. They were nevertheless able to flee the scene. Once outside, the unnamed owner fired a few more shots in their direction, but none of the rounds were believed to have hit their mark. The incident wasn't described as a random smash and grab, as the suspect specifically went for high-value pieces and made off with gems estimated at $170,000. Assessing the heist, Madera Police Sergeant Blake Short said, "This was definitely a meticulously planned robbery. It does not appear to be their first time committing something like this." Cops found the suspect's getaway vehicle abandoned outside city limits and no arrests were immediately reported. Number 14. Incident in Newham. On January the 20th of 2022, a weapon-wielding thug wearing a balaclava entered a shop in Newham, East London. The only 2 people inside the store were the shopkeeper and a female customer. The thug threatened this shopkeeper while waving an unidentified weapon, which some sources described as a stick. He cocked his arm back, seemingly prepared to strike at the worker. The female customer then bravely intervened and started pulling on his coat while shouting at him to get out. The thug shook her off until she grabbed his weapon and tried to disarm him. At that moment, he swung his arm back and struck her. The woman was momentarily knocked back but then re-engaged the would-be robber. Her persistence ultimately drove him off and he left the store as the woman repeatedly screamed, "Son!" to him in Spanish. Number 13. Ron Croker. 42-year-old Lloyd Smith burst through the doors of the coin-op launderette in Maltby, England, on the morning of January the 7th of 2025. The masked suspect was captured on surveillance footage, aggressively walking up to 84-year-old Ron Croker as he was drying his clothes and demanding that he surrender his wallet. Croker refused to do so and walked Smith down. The thug backed away slowly while threatening to knock out the pensioner, but soon left the launderette. He returned moments later and grabbed Croker. The older man remained strong in his resolve, later telling a media outlet that he had worked all his life for his money and that Smith was not having it. Croker wrapped a pair of jeans around his arm to defend himself, in case the robber had a weapon. He then repeatedly yelled at Smith, "Get out!" and battered him back towards the exit, forcing him to leave empty-handed. Smith fled and didn't return. Croker emerged from the altercation with bruises to his hand and arm, but without serious injuries. Smith was identified by members of the public after footage of the attack was released. He was arrested and initially denied knowing anything about the incident, but eventually pleaded guilty to attempted robbery about a month later at Sheffield Crown Court. Smith's actions were reprehensible. He tried to intimidate and rob a man twice his age, but has instead earned himself time behind bars, said Detective Inspector Lucy Garside of Rotherham Police. The would-be robber was jailed for 3 years and 9 months. Number 12. Amaya's Market Robbery. In February of 2023, a man wearing a red cap and surgical mask entered Amaya's Market on Adams Boulevard in the Westlake district of Los Angeles. He initially acted as a customer, but then lingered inside the store after seeing a customer make a cash wire transfer. As seen on surveillance camera footage, he then approached a clerk while she was standing behind the counter. The suspect brandished a large knife and pressed it against her body, demanding money from the register and threatening to kill her. The girl looked him in the eyes as he angled the tip of the knife towards her midsection. She slowly grabbed the large blade, which she then held firmly while screaming for help. A struggle ensued and the thug grabbed her by the head as he tried and failed to pry the weapon away. The girl disarmed the suspect. He fled, but she ran after him with the knife raised above her head in a stab position. She brought the knife down and missed right as the suspect ran out the door. Store owner Renee Amaya later told a media outlet she is a brave girl. She fought against him. She got the knife and she chased him, trying to get him. The clerk, who chose to remain anonymous, had only been working at the store for about a month. She told a reporter, "It's really scary. I think all people are scared when seeing knives or guns or something like that." The brave clerk sustained cuts to her hands but was otherwise unharmed. Number 11. Sergio Hernandez Jr. On July the 16th of 2018 in San Diego, California, Sergio Hernandez Jr., a professional mixed martial arts fighter and longtime practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, went to his father's home while his father was out running errands. According to Hernandez, he found the man standing in the backyard and claiming that he was hiding from a dog. Hernandez initially allowed him to leave, but soon discovered the screen window of his father's bedroom had been ripped open and the room was in disarray. Hernandez chased the suspect across the property and, upon catching him, applied a triangle chokehold, a submission technique which involved locking his legs around the man's head and arm. He calmly sat on the man and maintained the hold for approximately 5 minutes until police arrived on scene and placed the suspect under arrest. Hernandez later stated that although his training gave him the capacity to inflict greater injury, he chose to restrain the intruder without pursuing revenge or excessive harm. I could have broken his arm easily. But I don't like to see people get hurt. I was going to put him to sleep, but I wanted to keep talking to him to figure out why he chose our house. Hernandez added that he wanted to invite the suspect to a boxing gym, highlighting, "He's young, there is still time to save him, to guide him in the right direction." Number 10. Timur Khizriev. On the evening of July the 15th of 2025, MMA fighter Timur Khizriev was pulling several items out of the trunk of his SUV in Makhachkala, Dagestan. As captured by surveillance cameras, 2 robbers approached him with guns in hand and immediately opened fire as his back was turned. The weapons were described as being of the less lethal variety. Such weapons fire rubber bullets and other types of non-lethal ammunition, but still have the potential to cause life-threatening injuries, depending on where in the body the projectile hits. At the time, Khizriev was a featherweight champion of the Professional Fighters League with a record of 18 wins and no losses. In his most recent tournament, he'd won $1 million after defeating seasoned fighter Brendan Loughnane. Criminal elements had likely gained knowledge of his earnings and targeted him. In spite of being shot, Khizriev displayed remarkable resilience as he fought back against the robbers. He took one of them down and bested him in a grappling exchange. The thug's companion continued firing, but seeing that 29-year-old Khizriev wouldn't relent, eventually chose to flee. The fighter, who'd been shot 5 times, then mustered enough strength to run away, and the suspects also scattered. No arrests were reported in the immediate aftermath. The fighter underwent surgery in the ambush's wake, and updates indicated he was alive and out of danger. Number 9. Ramyamuki, Ithlayanathan, and Thillainanathan. On July the 23rd of 2017, Paul Callahan, an Englishman in his mid-40s, targeted Ernie's News, a small store in North Ormsby, Middlesbrough. Callahan was armed with a large kitchen knife and was wearing a balaclava. He threatened shopkeeper Ramyamuki Ithlayanathan, but she fought back, initially keeping him at bay with a reach-extending stick from behind a door that separated the counter from the entrance. While doing so, the woman operated her cell phone. In the moments that followed, her husband, Thillainanathan, came into frame and struck Callahan with a ladder. The couple worked together to push back the knife wielder, but he was eventually able to grab the till. A tug-of-war with Ramyamuki ensued, all the while Thilepan threw handfuls of chili powder at the robber's face. Although he was covered in the spicy condiment, Callahan was eventually able to drag the till outside. He got on his bike, at which point Ramyamuki grabbed him by the back wheel to prevent him from riding off. Thilepan continued to pepper him with chili powder and then threw an advertising sign at him. Callahan swung the knife back at Ramyamuki, prompting her to let go of the bike, and he rode out of frame. The man was arrested after a short pursuit. Prosecutors later said that the couple displayed great bravery and remarkable fortitude. Callahan, who had a history of robbery and petty crime, said in court, "I'm sorry I did it. I never hurt anyone." The habitual drug user told the authorities that his son was dying, which was a lie, and that he was in a dreamlike state on the day of the robbery because someone had spiked his drink, which was also a lie. In 2018, he was jailed for 4 years and 10 months. Number 8. Kevin Blair. In the early hours of July the 1st of 2024, a 51-year-old man named Tommy Lee Williams smashed the drive-through window of a Chick-fil-A in Stone Mountain, Georgia, using a rock. He entered the kitchen area carrying a handgun and told an employee that he would die if he didn't open the safe. The worker, later identified in reports as inventory director Kevin Blair, didn't know the safe's combination. When Williams pointed the gun at his face, Blair, who'd had several years of self-defense training, grabbed the weapon and engaged him physically. "Well, if you're going to shoot me, I'm not going to make it easy," the worker later told WANF-TV. Surveillance video showed a prolonged struggle as the men vied for control of the gun for several minutes, exchanging strikes. "We're trading blows. I'm hitting him, he's hitting me, he's throwing knees, I'm doing a lot of blocking, but my main focus was on that pistol and keeping that pistol pointed away from me," Blair said. At one point, the firearm fell to the floor and Blair managed to remove Williams' mask, exposing his face. Eventually, Williams fled the building through a rear exit and he was later arrested by Gwinnett County deputies and U.S. Marshals. He was charged with armed robbery, aggravated assault, second-degree burglary, kidnapping, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and property damage. Number 7. June Turner. Early on the morning of September the 3rd of 2019, June Turner, an 81-year-old shopkeeper at A.J.&J Newsagents in Hanley, Stoke-on-Trent, England, was confronted by a masked man demanding money. The robber had covered his face with a blue blanket and he ordered the octogenarian to surrender cash and cigarettes. Turner, who had run the store for decades, attempted to hit the panic button, but was unable to locate it. She then grabbed her walking stick, which she'd been using for 3 years since breaking her hip, and ferociously fought back, repeatedly striking the robber. The brave business owner recounted, "I wish I had my wooden stick because then I would have knocked him out. I went hell for leather on him." CCTV footage showed her holding her own against a man who was roughly half a century younger. The robber responded by pushing her to the ground. Turner sustained a black eye in the struggle but did not require hospital treatment. The thug fled with only about £50 and 6 packs of cigarettes. Turner remained on the floor until a regular customer came in and helped her back to her feet. You can't give way to them, but you do have to be careful in case they've got knives. I didn't give him a chance to get a knife out because I was already hitting him, the woman said. Turner added that she acted purely on instinct, feeling that she had to defend the money she and her family had worked hard to earn. Following the incident, police arrested a 28-year-old man on suspicion of robbery. Number 6. Tom Anderton. With the money he made as a professional MMA fighter, Englishman Tom "Mate" Anderton fulfilled a lifelong dream of opening a record store in Red Lion, Pennsylvania. In December of 2013, a video started circulating of Anderton thwarting a shoplifting attempt at his store. The suspect had reportedly browsed Tom's music trade and concealed some records at his back. Anderton caught the would-be shoplifter in the act and confronted him. "When I went to check, he pulled a knife out. It was big enough as well," Anderton recalled. A friend of the fighters was able to remove the weapon as Anderton grappled with the suspect. One of Anderton's young daughters was inside the store at the time. Considering the dangers, the fighter locked in a rear naked choke on the suspect. The move is one of the most dangerous and hardest submissions to escape. Anderton could have applied enough pressure to render the suspect unconscious or even kill him. However, as he later went over the surveillance footage, Anderton highlighted, "I'm not actually trying to choke him out." The suspect was ultimately arrested and no serious injuries were reported. Number 5. Bhumika Patel. On March the 1st of 2016, Christian Thornton, a teenager from Georgia, entered the Keysville convenience store in Burke County and approached cashier Bhumika Patel at the counter. Surveillance footage clearly showed Thornton's face as he placed a can of soda down and paid for it. Patel opened the register to process the transaction. As she did so, Thornton reached inside his hoodie, pulled out a revolver and aimed it at her and demanded the money in the till. Patel later said that she refused, recounting, "I say no, I can't. He says I shoot you. I say go ahead. If you want to shoot me, shoot me." The woman added that she felt fighting back was her only option, stating, "Because I no fight, still he shoot me. I fight, still he shoot me. Better than I fight." She pushed the gun away from her face and grabbed it, trying to disarm him. Thornton continued the robbery attempt and reached toward the open register, but Patel pulled him down by his hood and struck him in the head with the register drawer. Thornton struggled and eventually freed himself from her grip. Patel then took a claw hammer from behind the counter and, as shown in surveillance video, positioned herself as if prepared to strike him with the claw end. Thornton fled the store. He was later arrested and charged with attempted armed robbery, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. The following year, he pleaded guilty to a reduced count of attempted robbery. In Burke County Superior Court, he received an 8-year prison sentence followed by 7 years of probation. Number 4. Montreal Jason Bourne. 2 intruders clad in all black and wearing face masks broke into the garage of a home in Montreal, Canada, in late May of 2023. Upon making their way inside, they took out white plastic bags from their pockets. They were in the process of bagging goods when a muscular young man, clad in nothing but a pair of orange shorts, charged them. What followed was captured by home surveillance cameras. The man, who some media outlets likened to action hero Jason Bourne, bravely traded blows with the intruders, landing powerful punches on both of them, in spite of being repeatedly struck in the face. He was able to take one of them down, and before long, the suspects clambered over each other as they fled out the door. The home defender gave chase and grabbed one of them. When the door swung open again, the man appeared into frame as he floor-dragged one of the suspects back into the garage. He shut the door, locked it, and began punching the burglar-turned-victim in the face as he flailed on the floor with his clothes all messed up. The battered man loudly pleaded for him to stop. The home defender was able to remove the suspect's shirt and mask. The footage ended with him and the suspect engaged in a grappling exchange that the latter appeared to be losing. It remained unclear if the thug made it out of the home before the arrival of law enforcement. The young man emerged from the fight without serious injuries, and aside from his sister's bag, nothing else was taken from the home. Number 3. Jill Beatty. A normal workday took a harrowing turn for Texas bank employee Jill Beatty on the morning of September the 24th of 2019. The 60-year-old was the first to arrive at the First State Bank branch in Abilene, and she went to unlock the door. In the moments that followed, a masked man jumped out of the bushes and forced her inside at gunpoint. They were alone for 15 minutes and Beatty tried to reason with the suspect. Then her co-worker arrived and Beatty sprang into action. As seen in CCTV footage, she bravely fought back against the robber and grappled with him. Her tenacity forced the suspect to reconsider and he began to retreat towards the front door. Beatty then kicked him in the leg and he pistol whipped her in the face before fleeing. The woman didn't suffer any life-threatening injuries and refused to publicly comment on the incident. Beatty's fortitude was all the more impressive considering that the man she'd fought off was believed to be a serial bank robber who was wanted in connection with 2 heists that had taken place in 2015 and 2016. As of the latest updates, the authorities were still looking for the suspect, who was described as an older black male in his 40s or 50s with partially grey facial hair, standing approximately 5'6" for her actions. Beatty was presented with a certificate of commendation by Police Chief Stan Standridge. He told KXTS she is a remarkable citizen. She showed remarkable calm. She never lost her head. She, in fact, negotiated with him. Number 2. Sal Mercado. On April 1st of 2022, a group of burglars targeted the home of Sal Mercado in Oak Park, Ventura County, California. When Mercado returned, he found a car parked out front with the driver inside. Upon making his way into the residence, Mercado encountered one of the burglars. The suspect tried to flee past Mercado, but the homeowner struck him with a right cross that knocked him down onto the grass in the front yard. He rose to his feet and retreated to the getaway car. Mercado then physically engaged a second burglar, who was subsequently identified as 43-year-old Alexis Provost Aranjuez. Mercado recounted that his flight or fight instinct kicked in when Aranjuez came at him. I didn't know if he had weapons before anything could happen. I went Mike Tyson on him. Mercado relentlessly punched Aranjuez until he stumbled and fell outside. The homeowner then tackled him into bushes at the side of the house to prevent him from reaching the getaway vehicle. The driver and first suspect drove off in a panic as Mercado shouted at neighbors to call 911. Mercado later said of Aranjuez, "He was all bloody and my whole arms were bloody." Mercado held him at the scene until the arrival of Ventura County deputies. The aftermath of the beatdown was visible in the suspect's mugshot, which went viral. He'd been left unrecognizable with severe swelling, a black eye, numerous scrapes, and what appeared to be a broken nose. Law enforcement said that Aranjuez, who was originally from Chile, was part of a recent wave of crime tourism in which thieves came in from South America to burglarize homes in California. Updates indicated that Aranjuez had pleaded not guilty to felony counts of first-degree residential burglary and conspiracy. Number 1. Willie Murphy. At around 11 p.m. on a November night in 2019, a would-be robber frantically knocked on the door of 82-year-old Willie Murphy in Rochester, New York. The man claimed he was sick and pleaded with Murphy to call him an ambulance. He eventually broke the door down, but the senior citizen hid in the dark. Then, as the intruder made his way into the residence, Murphy grabbed a wooden table and brought it down on him. She struck him until the table broke and afterwards continued to pummel him with one of its metal legs. Murphy continued the beat down by jumping and stomping on him. She then hit him with a broom until he became unconscious. Law enforcement arrived at the scene as Murphy was dragging the intruder out the door. He picked the wrong house to break into, Murphy later told WHAM. In spite of her age, Murphy was an avid bodybuilder. Her various feats of strength, such as heavy deadlifts and one-arm push-ups, gained millions of views on YouTube, while at her local YMCA gym, Murphy recounted a story in front of news cameras saying, "I'm old, but guess what? I'm tough." Thanks for watching. If you were robbed in broad daylight on the streets and you had to choose between giving up your wallet, your phone, or all of your clothes, which one would you choose and why? Let us know in the comment section below.